The reality is that FreeSol as a brand has been around for 7 years, and we've been chipping away for 7 years. Yes, you get these, overnight successes and, people go viral and whatnot, but actually everything that we've done is a result of just hard work and consistency, and I don't think that there is a trade-off for that.
Hi, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Yasmin.
And we started an online community called EComm Girls Club because we had no friends.
Well, no, we had friends, just not friends working in e-commerce, DTC marketing and brand building like us.
And now we do. EComm Girls Club is the first international community exclusively for girls in e-commerce, and we have a lot to say about it.
So we started a podcast. We'll be here each week to talk about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, building online business and the problems we face in the e-com industry.
And we'll also be sharing the stories of the amazing women within our community who are all crushing it. So let's get into it.
FreeSol have just hosted a wellness pop-up weekend in Soho, and I was following it on socials. Lucy, I'm sure that you were too. It just looks so good. It looks so well executed. And not only that, but your turnout was mega, wasn't it? How many tickets did you sell?
Unbelievable. I didn't actually check on the Sunday. I need to go back and have a look at how many we actually ended up selling. But within 5 minutes of launching, we'd done 500. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, which was just crazy. We were like, are these bots? Like, what is the system crashing or something? So yeah, that was crazy. And then we ended definitely on around 4,500, but to be honest, I think we hit the 5,000 mark.
Wow.
The weekend, but yeah, Saturday sold out, so we released more tickets on the Saturday. And yeah, it was just crazy.
That's amazing. So good.
I was going to say, for anyone listening, this is the exact reason we wanted to speak to Lucy. Well, first of all, it's going to get really confusing because there are now two Lucys on this call. There's EComm Girls Club Lucy and FreeSol Lucy, but we'll try and make it as clear as possible. But Lucy, do you want to introduce yourself? Because I feel like we won't do it justice.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent my whole weekend kind of introducing other people, so I'll try to kind of use that similar framework as I do on a panel. But yeah, I am Lucy, obviously, and I look after everything kind of brand and creative at FreeSol. So I guess that means anywhere that the brand shows up and you see it, either visually or through copy or through packaging. So spans kind of across emails, ads, I've said emails, ads, socials, influence marketing, packaging and design, and then kind of physical marketing as well. Not that we do that much, but yeah, kind of just anywhere that the brand shows up visually and creatively.
That's a lot, right?
Like, yeah,
that's
a big job.
Yeah, and so like, how do you actually do that? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no way that you're able to be in the weeds on all of those disciplines on an everyday basis. So how do you do it?
No, I have a very amazing team, which has been very much proven this weekend. I think, I've had a lot of people saying to me, oh my God, you've done such an amazing job. And yeah, like, I have overall kind of overseen, I guess, like the coming to life of the wellness studio, the thought processes behind everything, and how I wanted it to show up. But ultimately, like, I wasn't the only person involved. I have a graphic designer, influence marketing manager, executives who look after our community, and hiring for a social media manager at the minute. We've just hired a CRM manager. So there are people that execute and also strategize and have a lot of input. And being a small team, obviously that's made more possible. I think you can be more collaborative. You can kind of sit down in the same room and just come up with ideas for like the next campaign, or the wellness studio, for example, which we did a lot, and all of the girls have really, really great ideas and are very like big thinkers like I am. I said, I was talking to someone yesterday and I was saying, like, we could have got someone in to do this, but we didn't. Like, and why didn't we? Because we actually just wanted to do it ourselves. So yeah, I definitely like cannot take credit for everything that goes out. It's a team effort. But I guess it's my job to have the vision and to really make sure that everyone else understands what that vision is, so that they're able to then do what they need to do in line with that vision.
I love that. I think that's as well where you get like the heart and the soul of the DNA of a brand is by the people within the business doing the thing. Because you're right, like you could I was going to say free issue then, that's what you do with packaging. You could outsource and use agencies or event planners or whatever it is. But there's always going to be a slight disconnect, whether that's outward facing or not. You guys are going to know there's always going to be a slight disconnect as to whether, you know, that like brand vision and actual execution. So it's like, even though it's probably 10 times more work for you guys to do it yourself, the end result is probably 10 times better.
Yeah, no, for sure. And don't get me wrong, we definitely do use agencies, and I think agencies definitely have a place. And, you know, even if it's just kind of the sharing of knowledge, like an agency sees so many different accounts, so many different audience types. They look at, you know, they're working with so many different moving parts. So it can be really useful, and they can have a lot of learnings that we don't. But ultimately, like you say, when it comes to the brand and the vision, you have to be really inside to really get it, and kind of listen to it day to day and understand it day to day, and, you know, understand, well, why do you not want it to look like that? Or, you know, why do you like that? Or how is that one better than that one? Which, you don't kind of get as much of that with an agency, I don't think.
I think it really shows up as well. Like, obviously FreeSoul is a supplement and wellness business, right? And the strength of your community behind that brand, you can see it on socials and stuff. And I think a lot of that, probably, I'm making an assumption, but comes from the fact that you are a really hands-on team. Because I think community building is something that kind of has to come from within the brand, from experience.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm going to say this a lot, but I had this exact conversation with someone yesterday, and they were like, how have you created this like incredible community? And it does really come from inside. You can't have an external community if you don't have an internal community. And I think even just as simple as like having our team on the door yesterday and on Saturday, they gel so well. And you walk, like, even I was walking in and out all day. And every time you walk in and you just see them, like the three of them, I think it was Holly, Izzy and Imogen, were just like dancing together. And like, it just made you want to dance. Like, you would walk in and you were like, oh my God, the vibes are so good in here. And then that just continued as you went through and you went upstairs, and a lot of people came by themselves, like so many people. And we were really, really, what's the word? I guess, like, conscious that people were coming by themselves. And we kind of said to the team, we've explicitly told people that you are welcome to come by yourself. Please do come by yourself. Like, this is a great opportunity to meet like-minded people and to interact with a community and make friends. And we can't say that if then they get there and they don't have that opportunity, or we don't create that kind of environment. So I would say we're that type of people anyway. Like, we're all very similar, we're all very outgoing, but we were super, super conscious to make sure that we were creating that environment, because I think it's so easy to say that and say, just show up by yourself, like, it'll be fine, you know, it's such a nice community, it'll be such a nice time. But then if you have like people that do turn up by themselves and, you know, they're standing in a room, you need to go over and like interact. And that's what we all did, because we're all that type of person anyway. But I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think FreeSoul is probably one of the best examples at the moment of a most recent kind of scaled DTC brand who has really built and leveraged that community. Because the thing is, like, especially in DTC and ecom, like, you see brands scale and just pop up overnight from this kind of paid ads influence, right? But what happens if that paid media tap turns off one day, and all those new customers that you're acquiring, you're no longer acquiring because, you've turned your ads off? So the bedrock of a solid brand, I believe, is community. And I think that's where, FreeSoul have absolutely nailed it. And I think what would be really interesting to understand, Lucy, is when you first started at FreeSoul, the community and what it looked like at that point, and how you've actually grown it to what it is today. So can you just give us a bit of a tour?
Yeah, no, of course. I think just first off, there's no one way to grow a brand. I think you have to do everything, and a little bit of everything, and think about all the different kind of areas and opportunities that you do have, whether it's paid ads, whether it's community, whether it's, your brand and your like aesthetic and how you show up and you're creative, or it is a bit of everything. So I definitely say that's, we do look at all the different moving parts, but community is a massive one of those. So when I started, the community was there, like from day one, and I could see it in the DMs. I was like speaking to people, and I think just the nature of what we talk about as a brand invites community really, really like complimentary, and people, women like talking to women, and we like sharing our problems. So it's quite, it was quite easy. I don't want to say easy because it's not been easy, but it's been, natural, I would say, for women to come to us and want to, feel like they're part of something, and like, I guess, embody the lifestyle that we try to create. And then I guess it's just grown. Like, nothing's ever changed. It's always been there. And it's so funny because, again, this weekend, so many people have said, you've popped up out of nowhere. And like, how have you done it? And, I hadn't heard of you. And now, you're just here, and you've got this amazing kind of like big activation. And the reality is that FreeSoul as a brand has been around for 7 years. And we've been chipping away for 7 years. It does, like, yes, you get these, overnight successes, and, people go viral and whatnot. But actually, everything that we've done is a result of just hard work and consistency. And I don't think that there is a trade-off for that. I think being a nice person is really important. And nice people attract nice people. And I'd like to think that our community is just full of really nice people. People that I would be friends with and I am friends with. So yeah, I feel like there should be like a really nice little nugget of like, information that like, people will kind of go away and be like, yes, I'm going to go and do that. But the reality is there isn't. I think you can't build and gain the trust of thousands of people overnight. So I think
there is a nugget. It's hard work and
consistency.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I think you just absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I think you can't gain the trust of all those women overnight, and it's or any person overnight. So it is just like thinking about it as like the long game, and not trying to look at it as a numbers game either. I think is really important, because I have done so many events now with FreeSoul, community events. I did our first ever Christmas party, which was like 5 people. And then influencer and creator events over the years, which maybe have gone from like 15 to 20 to 30 to 40, and then to 100 when we did our walk with Gymshark, and then to 5,000 now. And I've come away from each of those events with a really similar feeling, because it's not about the numbers, it's about the connections, and like, they're all humans. Like, it's not like, they're all real people. It's not just about, how many people can we fill into a room. Like, yesterday would have been this weekend would have been absolutely nothing if all the women that came to the wellness studio had just walked in, bought something and walked out. But actually it was the kind of experience and the conversations and the interactions and seeing, other women meet other women and kind of get on and gel, and that's what made it really special.
And so then because I think one of the things that brands and founders sometimes struggle with kind of activations and out of home marketing and things like that is like measuring the ROI, because as you say, like it's not about numbers, but then how do you kind of quantify what counts as successful? I guess in part the feeling that you said, but how do you put that in an email? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you measure that? Like,
yeah, that's for next week. That's next week.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, that activation, whilst 100% there were markers of success throughout, and I set KPIs at the beginning in terms of, you know, these are the measurable things that we want to achieve in doing this. So I think I put something ridiculous like sell 1,500 tickets. Like, we did that within the first 12, like not even 12 hours, probably the first 6 hours. So it overall, in terms of from a business perspective, it was an awareness activation. So that was just kind of the goal. The goal is to reach as many new people as possible, and also as many existing people as possible, because you also want to kind of develop that loyalty with your existing customers. But yeah, it's the first kind of step is just setting out, well, what do we actually want to achieve from this? And is this activation going to help us achieve this goal? If we were looking for kind of, you know, ROI, then probably we wouldn't have done a 5,000 person wellness studio with yoga classes and things, because all of the money from the workshop sales went to charity. So we chose the Eve Appeal because it has very kind of sentimental meaning to the Free Soul team.
That's amazing. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. So all of our proceeds went to the Eve Appeal. So it wasn't like that. We're not going to see the ROI on that because we're not taking any of the money. So I think it's just about understanding that. Just understanding awareness, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the amount of people that I've spoken to now and have said, "Oh my God, I've gone on my Instagram and all I've seen is Free Soul Wellness Studio," and I'm like, that is amazing. So yeah, I guess the next step now is just looking at, okay, how many people have we reached through our community, through our socials, and then just kind of working out a CPM based on that, and saying, right, okay, well, is that, you know, in line with what we would expect for an awareness campaign?
Amazing. So talking of Instagram and community and milestones, you hit a pretty big one recently with the 100k followers. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
I guess a couple of questions, answer them in whichever order you want. But when you first started at Free Soul, where was the Instagram page in terms of community or followers versus now? And then also, do you have any goals in terms of following, or is it not really about following for you guys? Can you give a bit more color to that whole side of growth?
No, of course. So we actually, we hit another kind of mini milestone that we've been working on this weekend at the Wellness Studio as well. And we got the Free Soul handle. So yeah, really exciting. So we were Free Soul Sisters, which obviously was just something that was started at the beginning. And I think definitely as a brand, we've just outgrown. I've not used that term in years. I used it when I first started, but it just didn't really feel authentic to who we are and our audience, and who we were trying to speak to. So yeah, was really dying to get rid of that sisters at the end for a long time, and we finally actually did it on Saturday. I was in the middle of a panel, and I got off the panel, looked at my phone, and I had a text saying, "We're Free Soul now." So that was really exciting, seeing all of the content go out across the weekend that just said Free Soul was really special. But then it did mean that we had to go round and peel all the sisters off all of the decals that we'd stuck on the wall the night before, which was slightly annoying. But yeah, that was just that I would, if you'd asked me that question a couple of weeks ago, that would have been definitely one of the milestones I was looking to or one of the things I was looking to achieve with the account. In terms of the following, I can't remember the exact number. I have a screenshot somewhere, because I'm just that kind of person that screenshotted it when I came in. But I believe it was around the 26k mark. So yeah, to have kind of reached, I think we're on 105 now following the Wellness Studio, is just like phenomenal. In terms of new kind of milestones and goals and tracking following, I guess I fulfill the role of social media manager myself at the minute. And therefore I'm always setting, I guess, myself the goals. But I think reporting and insights are hugely valuable and very essential for growing a social account. But following doesn't just correlate with the content that you put out. Like, there are so many phenomenal brands that I see on socials who just don't have, or you know, are slowly increasing their following, but they don't have huge numbers of following. And then there are so many brands that I see that have huge numbers of following, and I look at the content that they put out, and I'm like, I don't think that is amazing content. So I think following and follower growth is the responsibility of the whole business and the whole brand, and there are so many different levers when it comes to following. Like, if we featured on TV tomorrow, our following would increase, and that would have nothing to do with the content that we are putting out. And obviously you have to create amazing content in order to you know, make people want to follow you, and I accept and understand that. But I just think that having follower goals is slightly out of the control of the person running a social media account. Again, like, you know, an influencer could post your product and you could gain, you know, hundreds of followers, but that wouldn't be in your control. So it's a tough one. I'd love to hit 1 million as like a number, but I think it's more of a kind of pie in the sky number that is just something I'm kind of have in the back of my mind.
Makes sense. The other thing I was going to ask is, obviously Yasmin and I stalk you on Instagram quite frequently, and you look like you have the...
Sorry, Yasmin. Lucy.
Throwing you... We both do. But Lucy looks like she has the most fun job ever. And I know Instagram is not reality, but I think there's probably a few, at least DTC marketers, who would aspire to have a job like yours that would be listening. So I'm kind of wondering, like, what's the most challenging thing? Because the nature of what you do, what we see is the glossy fun bit, right? But you don't see kind of what's going on behind the scenes and the late nights and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the kind of desire and the want to just do it all and do it all really quickly and continue to grow really quickly and do that. There's so much that we can do. Like, we've just done this incredible wellness studio. I could go into the office this week, it's Monday. I could go into the office tomorrow and kind of say, pull my report together, you know, huge success. Let's just do another one like next month or whatever. But actually, is that the right thing for the business? I could say, oh, you know, we've got massive demand in Manchester. Let's go and do something in Manchester. But is that the right thing right now for the business? And the want and the kind of, I guess, that urge to kind of do everything, but like, none of us have time to do everything. And so it's like really distilling everything down and working out, okay, well, which campaigns or which activations or which ideas or which new products are right for us and worth our kind of time and energy. Because like, time and resource is money, right? Like, even if I, you know, spend like, you know, we had this budget for the wellness studio, but the budget wasn't just the budget, because all of my time for the last 6 weeks has gone into this studio, and that's also of value. Yeah. So just understanding that kind of, you know, your time and energy and your team's resource is also like has a number to it, and working out how and what and why to do certain things over other things, I would say is challenging. And then also just growing a team is really tough. And I think being a manager is something that no one ever teaches you. So you're kind of just like muddling through, trying to figure out yourself.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like a whole job role that you kind of just assume, right, when it's given to you. You don't get any training on it. There's really no pre-warning either. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, I've got, even having one direct report is a whole, you are responsible for that person and their success and their satisfaction at work. So, and there's no training in that. And so I can completely relate. And Lucy, I know you're going through growth, other Lucy, at the moment in terms of hiring, and it's a lot, isn't it?
It's a really like challenging thing in terms of, it's almost frustrating to get used to having to spend time. Well, it's what you just said, Lucy, actually, like taking time away from actually doing work because you need to set other people up to be able to work. But it's like almost like a vicious circle at the start when you're like trying to figure out how to split your day and how to make everyone else efficient before yourself. But then when do you get around to your work? You know, like it's that kind of, it's the energy thing as well, I think. It's like, I think almost when you're in managerial or founder positions, you're expected to have like everlasting energy. It's not a thing.
Yeah, I think it's like the success of the team that you have around you is also like, it's my responsibility. And if I don't set them up for success, then I can't expect them to be successful. But then alongside that, obviously, like stuff happens, like life happens and people are different, and you know, you have to navigate different personalities and, you know, different ways of giving feedback. And that's really, really important because you want to make sure you're getting the best out of everyone, but you can't treat everyone the same. Especially I have 6 people. Honestly, my brain at the minute is like fried as it is, and then we're hiring at the same time. So I do lose track of how many people are in the overall business. I think there are 15 of us, but we do have a new starter tomorrow, so that'll be 16. But yeah, so like navigating 6 different personalities, and ensuring that I'm adapting myself to make sure that I'm giving them what they need, is really tough. And then alongside that, as you say, doing everything else that you need to do that sits within your kind of remit, is tough.
I'm going to ask a question on, it's potentially a bit more of a boring question, but it's around like systems and processes. So like day to day, how do you manage your team? So say it, for instance, let's use the most recent activation as an example. So you have the idea. What is the next step? And then how do you implement and execute that throughout your team?
Yeah, so I'm a creative, right? So I am very visual. So the first step in anything, whether it's a new product launch, a new campaign, an event, whatever, a shoot, whatever, I always mood board to start with. So Pinterest is like, I'm addicted to Pinterest. I've got like a million different Pinterest boards. So I'll just do that myself just to kind of get an understanding of what I'm trying to create and achieve. And do a bit of just like a brain dump, maybe on like a Word document. So whether it's like taglines or copy or names or just like general random ideas, I'll kind of dump that all into there. And then obviously if there needs to be budget, maybe I can kind of have a play around and see, well, actually, is this feasible? And then in terms of the kind of the execution within the team, I love a Google Doc and a Google Sheet. I also love Notion. So I think as a startup, there are definitely less processes, I would say, and kind of systems than, you know, your average business. But that's what makes it so kind of moldable, and really quite exciting. Like, not everything has to follow this kind of one set process all the time. Like, if the wellness studio had to fit into this kind of box, half of it probably wouldn't have existed, because it was just all these kind of random crazy ideas, one after the other. But generally one central point, whether it's a Notion board or whether it's a Google sheet where just everything goes in. So like the wellness studio Google sheet had like probably about 15 different tabs by the end, and one of those tabs was like the social schedule, and one was the asset list that we needed, and one was all of the the schedule of the day, like the actual day-to-day what was going on, and then a rota, and then emails, and like just all these different kind of moving parts. Just it's all kind of centralized and visible for everyone who needs it. And then I guess also just letting people do what they're there to do is quite important. And just really kind of giving that trust, which I definitely struggle with because I'm like such a perfectionist, and I just know exactly how I want everything in my head. So it can be hard sometimes to kind of be like, yeah, go and just do that email or create that social post, because if it doesn't look how I imagined it in my head, I'm kind of like, oh, maybe I should have just done that myself. But actually, it's really, really, really important to give that autonomy away so that other people can learn what you like. Like, we had a graphic designer start 2 weeks before the wellness studio. And I mean, I didn't have time to like obviously do any of the assets. She did absolutely everything, but she picked up really quickly what I liked and what I didn't like, because she asked me all the right questions. Like, we sit next to each other, so it obviously works really well, but you know, anytime she'd say, okay, what do you think of this? And I'd say, no, I'm not keen. She'd be like, why? What is it about that you don't like? And then I would be kind of forced to say, okay, well, this kind of is a bit too wavy, and that kind of doesn't sit right underneath, and I don't like that font when it's in all capitals, and I prefer, you know, the weight of that line to be like really thin and delicate or whatever. And then slowly over time, I think we really sped up the process of her understanding me, because of the sheer volume of assets that needed to be created for the wellness studio. But that's a really important step, because if I just kind of owned all of that from the first day, she never would have been able to understand what I did like and what I didn't like, and we would have never been able to get to a point where we were so in sync.
That's so interesting, that like feedback loop, and the fact that you were just simple tactics like sitting next to each other, which I could go down this whole segue of remote working right now and like pros and cons, but I think we've clearly identified one of the pros of being in an office, whether it's just 2 days a week or 5, is that like FaceTime, and that, like I say, that feedback loop. And like, it doesn't matter if whether you like it or you don't like it is actually the least important bit. It's why you don't like it or why you do like it, and then like being able to feed that back in. Yeah, it just sounds like that's been so valuable for you along this like growth process.
100%. I think feedback is so important, and as I said earlier, also understanding how certain people like to receive feedback. We did the color personality test thing.
Yeah, my boyfriend gets everyone he meets to do that, including me when we first met. But like, even all his staff or like new hires, the first thing he'll ask all of them to do is the personality test.
It's so important. I mean, the comparison that I made is like, it's like a love language. Like,
yeah,
there are the different love languages, and if ultimately your partner doesn't understand how you want to be loved, then you're not going to feel loved. So in a work environment, if you don't feed back to a person in a way that they like to be fed back to, they're going to think that, you know, you're constantly being negative about them, or they're not going to feel valued, and therefore their output isn't going to be as good, because they're not going to feel motivated, because you're not empowering them with their feedback. You're just like tearing them down all the time. So I think it's really important, and also just understanding how like vastly different people can be. You know, some people just love like a simple black and white email, and they want everything documented, and it should be just like really clear, concise, you know, whereas other people, if you sent them that as feedback, they'd be like, oh my God, I've got like a list of 10 things that Lucy doesn't like about my work, and that, you know, that's just like the worst thing in the world. So yeah, I think it's like really, really important.
I think it even goes, you can probably extend it to like, not even just D2C or e-com brands, but any company. I honestly believe a solid like 80%, maybe I'll be more bullish, like 85% of problems like stem from bad communication or like struggling to communicate. Like honestly, when you, obviously there are some things that are unavoidable, like if Meta goes down, which like, or Meta changes, which happened last week. Yeah, that's a problem that's out of your control. But a lot of them are made worse by communication problems or are caused by the inability to communicate effectively, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think sometimes we just forget that we're people. Like I say this all the time to my team, but I'm just a person. Like if there's a problem or whatever, like just come to me, kind of, or at least let's try and create a relationship where you feel like you can just come to me and say, hey, like, you know, this is my problem, like what can you do to accommodate it? Or yeah,
I love that. So we're going to tie off just on questions that we ask everyone. And one of them is, what is the single best piece of career advice you've ever received or would give somebody?
I think something that we touched on at the beginning that people kind of really underestimate is just working really hard. Luck. I think people think a lot of the time that, you know, oh, it's just luck, or, you know, you're really lucky to be in this position or whatever. And like, it's, yes, obviously luck does play part sometimes, and, you know, right place, right time, or whatever. But I think just working really hard and being nice will get you a really long way. We have a value at Free Soul that's kind of to do with like egos, and we're just not egotistical people. And I think, you know, no matter how quickly your social accounts grow or how amazing people think your activations or your content is, like, don't let it get to your head. I think that's really important. Just working hard and being nice.
I love that.
I love that. Someone I used to work for always used to say, work hard, dream big, have fun, and don't be a dick. And I used to like that. I used to be like, that's like it. So final question, which we were also asking everyone, and you can't pick Free Soul, Lucy. But at the moment, what is your favorite D2C brand that you think is killing it, and why?
I think my favorite D2C brand that I think are killing it, I'm trying to think who I've bought from recently.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, actually.
Yeah. Who's influenced you?
Yeah.
Whose paid ads have been targeting your phone?
Influencer marketing strategy.
Like, whose products do I actually use and do I actually buy? I think Estrid is one. Like, I think their product is amazing. Like, I've never actually owned a better razor, and I will actually tell anyone who listens when it comes to talking about that kind of stuff that their product is genuinely really good. And also Skin and Me. Skin and Me, I think, is an absolutely phenomenal business. I think the background to it and the backstory and the kind of the journey that they went on with their funding, and then obviously bringing the product to market is amazing in itself. But then what they've gone on to do in the influencer space, and even just like the concept of the product, like, it just makes so much sense. I love those products where or those kind of brands where someone kind of tells you the problem that they're solving and it just makes sense. Like, why is it that in the UK we just don't have the same access to dermatology as people do in the US? Like, when I kind of first heard of Skin in Me, and it was like, oh, in the US everyone is going to see their dermatologist, and like that's just such a normal thing, and like in the UK I'm going to get the numbers so wrong, but it's like, I don't know, there's one dermatologist for every like 5,000 people or something like that. I've definitely got that number wrong, but it just makes sense. And they have a genuinely incredible product, and I'm a fully fledged subscriber, and I think I have been for about 12 months now. So yeah, that would be definitely another one.
Yeah, amazing. It's a great brand, and they seem to be everywhere as well at the moment. So yeah, kudos to them, and also to you and everything you're doing at Free Soul. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been really insightful. And yeah, thanks for spending the hour with us.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And to get involved with EComm Girls Club, search for @EComm Girls Club on Instagram.
And if you feel like taking your Instagram stalking one step further, we are both also on Instagram @YasminChic and @LucyCG.